Today we're going to be producing a song in the style of Fred Again. Fred Again's kind of exploded in popularity recently, especially after his Boiler Room set, which if you haven't seen, I'd highly recommend checking that out. It's like amazing. So if we look back through his discography, he's got kind of quite a varied sound. A lot of his stuff is more like ambient and chilled out, and then he's also got some like kind of bass heavy stuff as well. So we're going to make something that's kind of combining the two elements. He's known for lots of like vocal processing and vocal effects, so he samples lots of like interviews and use lots of like found sounds as well and processes them like really interestingly into the music, so we're going to look at that as well. So yeah, let's dive into it. So I'm going to be using Cubase, but obviously you can apply this to whichever software you're using. So this is the project we've made. So we're going to start by looking at the drums. So first element we've got is the kick drum. So on this kick drum, I've actually like taken out a lot of the high end because I've noticed Fred Again low passes the kick drum quite a lot, especially in his more chilled out stuff. So that's what we've done here. We've also scooped out the mids as well. If I take the EQ off, it just kind of gets rid of that mud and makes it kind of a lot more warm sounding. If we look at the pattern as well, it's just a normal 4 to the floor beat. And then I've added like a little extra kick drum in here just to make things interesting, especially with house music, because the beat is so simple. It's always good to add in these like intricate little bits to make it interesting. And now if we look at the snare drum, so it's kind of like a rim sounding snare. And then we've got a hi-hat on the offbeat. And then we've also added in some little like intricate little hi-hats. So we've got these on like the offbeat, there's actually in triplets this song is, so we've got this just before the like offbeat hi-hat at certain places in the grid while maintaining the kind of triplet feel. So if I solo all of these for you, it's gonna sound like this. The reason they're on different layers is because they're actually different samples, so just so we can adjust the volume independently of them. And then we've also added like a little snare fill in here as well, so this part is going to sound like, yeah, just to add some like interest to the beat. So yeah, that's the drums. There's also like an offbeat hi-hat I've added in at the end of every like 4 bars, just to kind of like lead it nicely into the next section. Really simple stuff. So now we're going to look at the piano. A lot of his music's kind of quite emotional as well, especially his like lockdown song, We've Lost Dancing, his song Julia as well. It's really kind of like emotional and lots of like interesting piano riffs and stuff. So in terms of piano chords, we've just got 2 chords. We've got a C minor and a G minor. Again, keeping it nice and simple. So if I play this piano for you. So these chords, yeah, again, just C minor and G minor. So I'll play the metronome along so you can see what I've done in terms of like the sequencing. So I've not played every chord on the start of every bar. I've left like half a bar gap in some of them just to make it interesting. So if I play this piano with the drums, we're going to get something that sounds like this. Yeah, just that little like break makes it so much more interesting, I think. So again, this piano is coming from Contact, so it's Alicia's keys. Obviously, you don't have to use this piano. Any piano software, you know, will do. There's many free ones out there these days, so you can always get one of them. We're compressing it with this CLA2A. Again, amazing compressor. I love this compressor because it's just so simple. You've literally just got like a peak reduction, and that's it. There's no like attack or release to play with. And then we're also just adding some EQ as well. So we're taking out all the low end, taking out some 200 hertz, boosting about 1K, and then taking out some high end as well. I think it's the compressor that really allows this to like glue into the drums a lot. And then we'll look at the sub. So this is what the sub sounds like. So in terms of the sub, I'm following the root note of the piano, so C and G. On the second time round, it comes in on the first bar just to make things interesting as well. I've added like this little riff in there, which is effectively like the C minor chord, but I've kind of used the notes from the C minor to make this little melody. So that on its own is going to sound like this. I'll play it with the click track. Yeah, again, that little gap there between the G note coming in really adds something. I think a melody like this is just really cool. And then at the end, we've gone an octave up on the G just to make it interesting. So if I play this with the whole rest of the track. So yeah, and then I've added like the octave up there. So in terms of the sound of the sub is actually coming from Serum. So this is a really, really simple sound. This is basically just a detuned saw wave running through a filter, and then we've added a sub oscillator in as well. So this is the sub, and then if I add this sub oscillator in, it really boosts some down the low end, which is what we want. Now this is also being sidechained. So there's a plugin called LFO Tool, which is like really cool, I think. So yeah, just 1/4. You can hear that kind of like ducking sound with the kick drum. So yeah, that's that. That's the sub bass. We have got the piano melody. So the piano melody, I took inspiration from the piano riff from the song Julia, because that's like a really kind of like emotional, like little, very simple piano riff. So in terms of the piano, if I play it with the chords, this is the melody we've got. Again, super, super simple. When starting this song, we've got the piano riff that I've just been through. So we've added this to some reverb as well, just like a medium reverb. We've got an open hi-hat to start the song on every other beat, so. Then we've also got one big piano chord that we've bounced down. And we've added this to a shimmer reverb as well. So Shimmer's by Valhalla. Again, amazing plugin. It's really good for like long kind of soundscaping reverbs. So we're on mono mode. There's no pitch, and we're on the dark mode as well. Quite a lot of feedback, a lot of diffusion. Kind of like a medium-sized reverb. And then we've also bounced this big piano chord down and reversed it. So if I play both of these to you, so you've got one chord, and then the next chord kind of fades in. There we go, very nice. And then we've got a riser here, so like a cinematic riser. This is just a sample that was inside Cubase. So if we look at the spectrum analyzer, it's like very low. Just add to that kind of sound that Fred again uses. So we've got a sound of water that I recorded. Yeah, it sounds quite deep and spooky, so we're adding this to like a really long reverb with Valhalla Room, like an 8-second reverb. So yeah, it just makes it more interesting and adds some like soundscape to it. And then we've also got some random Foley sounds that I've made, so. I'm the expert for us potatoes. You know what I don't know? We've got this sample as well, and it's just, I think I sampled it from a documentary just to keep in, you know, it's something that Fred again does a lot, like samples like voices and stuff. So it's just a sample of someone saying, it's how I feel, man. It's just a sample of someone, so I've added, if I play that on its own, it's how I feel, man. Taken out a lot of the low end, and then I've delayed it as well, just to add to like the textures in the intro of the song. You know what I don't know? It's how I feel, man. So yeah, now let's look at the vocals in the drop. So Fred again uses lots of like, yeah, vocal samples, especially in the drop. I think that's what makes it sound like quite unique, I think. So we've got a sound of, I'll play the original sample for you. This kind of like loops and chops throughout the song. So it's a sample that was actually inside Cubase. So it's just. So on that sample, we have added a flanger to it. I've got a chorus added as well, and then we've added some delay. And then just an EQ as well, just to, again, get rid of like the rumbling low end that isn't really needed. I'll just play it for you, so on this bit, I've just chopped up random parts of the sample and placed them in the right places. Again, keeping to like the triplet groove of the song. And then this sample we've got in here, it's actually the same sample on a different track that's just been pitched up. And again, with using flanger and like a chorus as well, very similar to like the other tracks. First sample you hear is this vocal sample. Again, we've just added a delay to it. So if I play all the vocal effects to you, it sounds something like this. So yeah, very, very kind of like Fred again sounding. So yeah, they're the vocals. I've also added in this random riff at the end. Must be. I think it's someone saying must be or something. Again, I just found it inside Cubase, and on this we're just using Little Alter Boy and adjusting the formant slightly, adding a tiny bit of drive just to make it interesting. So that plays at the end of every 8-bar phrase, just to kind of lead in nicely to the next part. We've got a reverse crash here, swooping up to the next section. So in the next part of the drop, we've got this little lead riff that comes in. So yeah, that was heavily inspired by We've Lost Dancing, that song. You know that lead melody that comes in, like on the drop, basically, the lead melody drop. We've taken a lot of inspiration from that. So to make that sound, I used Serum, if you've heard of it. Again, we just used a saw wave, a bit of detuning. We're modulating the filter with this really fast envelope, so 500 milliseconds of decay. So if I take that off, it's like this really like adds to the sound, especially when you're modulating the resonance of the filter as well. It sounds really cool. So that kind of sound when it comes in is really distorted, and then it tails off really quickly to make it kind of more interesting. So if I take that distortion off, you can really hear how much that adds. And again, I've added a chorus and a flanger. I've added some like hyper dimension as well, some dimension expanding to make it wider. So yeah, that's the lead sound. Again, we've just EQ'd it, boosted the high end, taken out all the unwanted lows, and then compressed it with the good old CLA2A. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's a Fred Again style song. So I'll play like the full thing now for you. Oh, can I have a roast? I'm the expert at roast. You know what I don't know?